Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tanya Williams from the Division of Child Care and Early Childhood Education. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. We have a few guest speakers, so I've got just one page, just a couple of quick updates, and then we'll go to our guest, and really appreciate them for being available to get on. I see one of them on my screen. I'll look to make sure the other one is on and just give you some updates there. But we have 41 facilities that are closed temporarily. We are seeing facilities and closures increasing a little bit with this Delta variant. So this has been pretty constant for the past few days. We're just tracking it daily again, and it's gotten up to as high as 48, but it's staying around the 40 mark every day. We have 12,577 essential worker families that are currently being served. If you have not heard, we are waitlisting any essential worker families effective actually 2 weeks ago, as we have obligated all of the CURSA funds, which was the funds that we received in December. We've expended 84.2 million out of the 119 million. And we've obligated to the existing families those funds. We are, just so you know, and just so there's no confusion, we are de-obligating those that are keyed through December back to October. And we have the American Rescue Plan Act funding to go before Legislative Committee for approval this month. If that is approved, then we will obligate those funds for essential worker families. So just be aware of that. If you see that happening and get concerned, that is actually us doing that, and it's to make sure that we have adequate funds for the remainder of the CURSA funding and to prepare for American Rescue Plan funding, which is on the calendar for this month for approval, and just keep your fingers crossed for that. Please continue to follow guidelines to keep children and staff safe. The guidelines are still up on our website. If you have any questions about anything, let us know. They are just guidelines, but I have seen some programs, and we are getting updates that sometimes programs are not following some of those, and it is impacting their ability to stay open. So I just would encourage you to keep those guidelines in place. Particularly masking does provide a lot of protection. And just encourage you to have everyone in your facility and all the people who are eligible to get a vaccine. We're going to have an update. I don't know, Jeff, if you're on, I'm going to hand it over to you. But Jeff Williams is going to talk to you about some efforts that our agency is doing around the vaccine. So Jeff, if you're on, we're going to let you have the mic.
Thank you, Tanya. Yes, I was able to get on and join you, thankfully, this morning. It's a busy morning at DHS as always. But I just wanted to take a moment. I know some of you have been on some of these calls before, but it's been a good while, so I'm not sure how many of you know me, but my name is Jeff Williams. I am the Director for Safety, Security, Continuity, Emergency Management with DHS, and the front person on the DHS's COVID response, working with many of our providers as well to help ensure that you have the information and the support that you need to be able to continue to do your work. Some may not understand, but I understand just how vital that your work is. Without the work that you provide out there, many more people would be sitting at home, missing work, and all the things that go along with that. So your support through this pandemic has been essential for this state's, not just the workforce in the state, but the economy of this state, and so many other things that come into that. And now we're asking you in this instance to continue to be a great partner with our organization to assist the clients that you serve. DHS started a couple of weeks ago a program that we are referring to as our MVP program. You may have had the opportunity to view on YouTube a recent video that was put out by Coach Pittman and Kanan Sandy. It was a great video that kind of talked a little bit about our program, the importance of vaccination, et cetera. We're going to continue to support these type of programs and the messaging that come with these programs over the next few weeks. Most of you may not be aware of the fact that we have done an enhanced program with our vaccination from our providers for the next couple of months. And where we really need your support is really just taking the opportunity, it could be just putting up something in your facilities, talking to your families, et cetera, that are out there. I know that there's a good portion of the Arkansas population that Medicaid reaches out and touches. And we want to make sure that you have the tools that you need to be able to assist your clients. This really is a really important program for not just for DHS in our state, but for your programs as well. The more people that we get vaccinated, the less of an opportunity that you may have someone come into one of your facilities that may be, COVID positive, or even just the opportunity to reduce the infection rate across the state through vaccination. I'm going to try to share real quick if I have that up. Let me see if it'll let me share. This is a website that we have created. It is at arkansas.gov/MVP, and it provides for you the opportunity to go in there and to look at some different toolkits that we have available to you. You can see it really is divided up into a provider and a client toolkit, where you may not necessarily be a Medicaid provider. This is the toolkit. The provider toolkit is what we're hoping you'll be able to assist us with. As you walk down through this, it's really very simple. It talks a little bit about what's in the toolkit, the purpose of the toolkit that we have, electronic messages. These are messages that you can send out via your social media or through emails and such to your clients. It has some downloadable information that's downloadable in PDF form, so it's easily transmittable via email. And then it has some posters and flyers that we have that you can put up in your facilities so that the folks there can have an opportunity to get their, maybe have an opportunity to get their questions answered about their concerns that they may have. To kind of give you an idea of where our Medicaid population currently is. And I'm going to talk about Medicaid clients, but this is really any of your clients that are out there. But the Medicaid clients themselves right now, we're looking at about, I think just over 1 million Medicaid clients out of about 750,000 that are eligible for the vaccine. And out of that, there's still about 550,000 that have been unvaccinated. We have about a 30%, rounded off, about a 30% vaccination ranks amongst the Medicare clients. That puts it a good 10, 11 points behind the general population. There are a multitude of reasons why that is. It's not just something that's on this particular population, but an issue that the population have, for instance, is in transportation. Well, we've solved that issue. We have the ability to be able to get your clients and such that you have out there to their vaccination appointments. And if they can't even get to the vaccination appointments, we have the ability to get somebody to their home to get them vaccinated. So it would just be, obviously we're talking about children here, 12 or older, and their families and such. But as I said, many of your clients have older children or the other family members in the homes, and we're just asking for your assistance. Print off some of these, put them up in your facilities, talk to your clients about the abilities, go in here, download some of the resources and send them out to your email list that you may have for your facility. We're just asking for your support and assistance in being able to provide the services that this population needs. And as I said, it'll benefit not just your facility, but it'll benefit the work that DHS does, as well as the work that's going across the state. So as I said, you can go into this site here. It's ar.gov/MVP. Come down here, download any of the information that's available on the website, as well as the stuff that you can share electronically through your social media, through your email addresses, or put into your office. And of course, here's the video. I'm not going to play it today, but you can watch the video on YouTube. But it's a great little video that they've put out. And we're going to continue to download. We have multiple videos. We're going to continue to do it so that it just becomes a refreshing message for the folks that are out there. And you see it. As you see, when you continue down this site, I'll finish with this. As you continue down this site, here are some graphics that you can download, that you can print off, that you can put into your office. So we're really pushing this program, especially for providers like yourself, because we know how much it's going to assist you in the work that you do, and thereby assist the families of the state of Arkansas. Now, if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer any questions that you might have. And I'll stop sharing this. I can do that. And as I said, I'm glad to answer any questions anybody might have.
Hey, Jeff, I put the page in the chat box so that they could access it. So hopefully everyone can grab that and have that available for your use. Thank you so much, Jeff. There's some questions that are not specific for you yet, and just let providers know. We'll go back to the questions. We do have a couple of guests today. We will answer those questions, but wanted to give you a chance to ask Jeff any regarding the work that we're doing on vaccinations, particularly with the Medicaid population. So.
Great to see. Yeah, the video was great. I really enjoyed the video. It was half chance they were in town when the opportunity arose, and they were both excited about the opportunity to assist in this program. They really see the benefit that this provides, and we're really very happy with the results when it was finalized.
Yeah, gang, if you get a chance, at some point in your day or evening, as some of us do evening work, take an opportunity to look at the video. It's really an awesome video, and I think you'll really appreciate it. It's something that you could share with your families, but I think it's a great encouragement by some folks that they'll recognize, hopefully, and just really appreciate our team at DHS for all their work, Jeff, and others who are working on this. If you do have questions, I'll type Jeff's email in the chat box in just a minute, but don't hesitate. Jeff's been a guest of ours in the past and is doing a lot of work, not just in this space, but also in other emergency response situations. So, please feel free to reach out to Jeff if something comes up.
And we'll answer any questions that you might have. And like I said, you'll have the email, so send it over. I'm happy to provide any answer that I can get. I generally respond very quickly and get it back to you. With a group this size, of course, you'll have, I'll get back to you as quick as I can. Most of the time I can answer back, and I tell people I'm available when you are. So if you need a question answered, whether it's during normal business hours or even outside of those, if you email me at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you may not get a response until the next day, but heck, with me, you never know. You might get a response right then. But anyway, so I'm happy to answer. And if there are no other questions, then I'll drop off and let y'all do your work.
Thanks, Jeff. All right. Well, it is, and I will put Jeff's email in, just trying to follow the agenda and make sure that I get to our next guest, who's a great friend and colleague over at the Department of Ed. And just as a reminder for everyone, we have an enormous opportunity and responsibility for children who may have identified or even unidentified disabilities. And, please make sure you're aware of what's in the licensing regulations around this. We're required to do referrals. We are in kind of an unusual situation. And I know that I've had some feedback from providers, and Danita and I have talked. But Danita Pitts is going to visit with us a little bit about the work on the early childhood special ed side. And while we understand that we're in a pandemic and there's concern about letting people in and out of the facilities, we all have to work together to make sure that children's services are delivered, particularly if they have an identified disability and have a specific service that's needed for them. We all want to make sure those get delivered and that children are getting those needs met. It just further exacerbates that problem if they do not get services. So, but we all understand that we're in a pandemic, and because this Delta variant is really wreaking havoc, for those of you who haven't seen, I think 30% of the population that's currently positive are children, which is very different than where we were last year. So we want to work with you. We want to be practical. We want to be safe. But I'd asked Danita to come on and talk a little bit about this. So I'm going to hand the mic over to her, and then we'll answer any questions. Danita Pitts from the Arkansas Department of Education, Early Childhood Special Ed.
I am here. Give me just a moment to figure out how to share with this. I'm used to having 3 screens, and so when I get to one screen, I sometimes get lost. But I am here today, hopefully just to let you know how to contact special education providers and when to make referrals. And then also to answer some general questions for you guys about how our programs work together, because the title of this is very true. We're all better together. If we are supporting each other and working towards those same end goals, then our children are going to reap the benefits of that. So I am Danita Pitts. I am the special education coordinator working with early childhood at DESE, as Tanya had mentioned earlier. And I know you guys, this is kind of your piece. So I wanted to start with what you normally do. When planning for what you're doing with your children, you guys are always really conscientious of making sure that what you do is developmentally appropriate and that it's high quality for your children and that it's meeting the needs of all of your learners. We want to ensure that you guys have access to materials to teach social skills to your whole group of children and in your classroom to offer supports as needed. And those are actually some things that if you're having difficulty with, your special education provider should be able to help you find access to some of these materials that are free and easily accessible. But you guys do this portion. You guys also are very aware of your typical developmental milestones. That's your background. This is your strength and where you really come into part of the early childhood special education conversation. Knowing your developmental stages. I did want to point out that one really great milestone tracker is obviously our Arkansas Child Development and Early Learning Standards, and then also the CDC milestone tracker. So we all have access to that across the state. And you guys, like I said, this is your area of expertise. Where I want to come in is, okay, what do you do if you're looking at your entire classroom of children and you have children who score poorly on a screener, a child who you've looked at those typical developmental milestones and they're not reaching those in the appropriate manner? Where do you get some support and some help for this? That is your early childhood special education provider. Let's look at some maybe that aren't as cut and dried as you can put a pencil on a screener or you can put a pencil on milestones. But maybe you're noticing that you have children who aren't speaking as clearly as some of the other children in your classroom. You're noticing that even after being in your program a while, they have a challenge with mobility and movement. Maybe they have some significant behavioral concerns. Maybe they appear to be significantly behind the rest of the class developmentally. While that's our first clue that maybe there are some things going on, I do want you to be conscious and aware that just because a child appears to be behind as compared to other children in the class, there is always that chance that that class is a bit advanced, that they're above where they should be. So anytime you start noticing these things, go back to your child development standards or that milestone tracker and see, is that child falling within normal ranges or does there appear to be a delay? If you feel that there is a delay, always, always, always make a referral. Refer any child that you suspect of having a disability. If you have strong concerns, you guys are around children all day, every day. You know typical development. If you feel that there are concerns, initiate the referral. A referral is just the process for gathering information about a child to determine appropriate next steps. So it starts that data gathering process. That early childhood special education provider should be reaching out to you for your knowledge and expertise, the parents and their knowledge and expertise, and working together as a collaborative team to see if that child may need some extra supports. So why should you refer a child? It is a requirement by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act that if you feel there is significant need, that we make that referral and at least have that conversation with parents to let them know what supports are available. Supports and services increase functional independence in children. They provide services that close any developmental gaps that are seen. And early identification and services is shown to lead to better outcomes for those young children, not only prior to kindergarten, but during their school years and even later on in their lifetimes. So how do you refer? Contact your local education agency. Now that may be your school district or your co-op. If you're unsure of who that is, please always reach out to me over at the Office of Special Education. I will be glad to let you know who that is if you're not aware. But when you make contact with them, share your concerns, give them some information needed to complete that special education referral form, and then they will more than likely invite you to be a part of that conference and give input and some feedback and allow you to be able to really have that good, broad, well-rounded conversation about that child's abilities and where they may need to proceed. And just for your information, because we have questions about this quite a bit, what happens after that referral conference or after the referral is made? That first initial conference determines where they will go. The parent at that point does have the right to say, I don't want anything further. And that does happen on occasion. But in most instances, they go ahead and get consent for an evaluation. So they may do some observations, give some tests to see where the child is falling in their development. After the evaluation, they will come back and have an evaluation conference where they say, okay, either the child is eligible for services or they're not, and what do we do from here? They may get a consent for placement for the child to begin actually receiving the services. They will create an individualized education program that looks at everything that child may need in order to access their education, and then the services would begin. So that's kind of the process that it goes through. These are timelines that I wanted to, let me move that over so you can see it. Just to give you an idea of how long this process takes, because some people, they make that referral and then they wonder, okay, what's happening in the background? So when a referral is received, they have 7 days to make contact with the parents. They have to give the parents, or unless the parent waives that right, 14 days in order to be able to get off work and attend. Okay, they have to give them ample time to make arrangements for if they want to attend the conference. That evaluation from the time that consent is obtained until the time they have to by law be finished is 60 days. Now, it may happen faster than that. That's the extent of the time that they have to complete all of the evaluations and observations. And from the time of that last evaluation component, they have 30 days in order to hold that evaluation conference and determine if the child is eligible. And like I said, that's the maximum. So that just kind of gives you an idea of that range. And just know that even though that process may seem to be taking a while, this is a big decision for parents. This is a big decision to make regarding that child's supports and services and, you know, several components following that. So we just want to make sure that we have all of the evaluation components we need, all of the observation, and then everyone knows that information well before making that determination. I'm sorry, I seem to be frozen. There we go. So where can those services be provided? Anywhere that child spends a substantial portion of their day. So in childcare settings, it could happen at a public school. It could happen at their home. Sometimes they meet in community settings like the library in a room, depending on what's convenient for the parents. I did want to make you aware that we do have an early childhood special education website. I can put that in the chat a bit later if you would like to access that. But there is a brochure that you can use if families are unsure or you want to offer that information to them. The early childhood coordinator list, where all of those people are located with their phone numbers and email addresses, is also on that page. And it also links to a child find page, which has some posters about the screening process and accessing services if parents are interested in having their child screened. And I know that was a really quick overview, but I didn't want to take up too much of your time today because I know it's so valuable and you guys really have to squeeze this in. But if you have further questions at all about anything I've talked about, feel free to call me. The number listed at the bottom will get you through to our secretary, but then she is able to forward that to me. So if you have questions, if you would like to know exactly where that brochure is or would like me to send you a copy, email me, call me, and I will be glad to help in any way. And do know, I know like Tanya had mentioned, we are in an unprecedented time. So make sure that if you know who your provider is, that they're aware of your building policies, as far as the screening process, wearing masks, just make sure that they're aware of that. So that way we can make sure that they're prepared before they come into your program.
Thanks, Danita. I know there's been a couple of comments in the chat box. So, and thanks to those of you who are responding to those. Dr. Kimberly Wolf had put in how difficult a conversation this is with parents, and Sandra Withers put in some training options that's online through Autism's Basics. So thank you, Sandra. Would encourage you also, we do have training in this area in our division, and Paige, if you'll put in the contacts for the training that we're currently funding, that might be helpful with that as well. Just want to make sure that's included as a resource. And certainly Danita and her team are a wonderful resource that may be able to help you with that conversation. And then June LeMay had also put in information. So it sounds like that's with Fort Smith Public Schools, as they are the provider in that district, I believe, Danita. And so I guess they're working with a private therapy agency, and that's how it's working up in that area. So that's great to hear. I would encourage you, if there are challenges, that Danita is our go-to person, and she can help navigate through those. And we're always willing to circle up if we need to try to help with any conversations as we're working through these, as it is complicated with many different partners, and certainly with the pandemic. So looks like all the other questions, Nita, are maybe about other things. So we'll go back to our call. We've got a couple of other folks. I think we have a couple of internal staff that are going to talk, gang, and then we'll go back through the Q&A. So I apologize. We're a little, just have a lot of information today. But Danita, thank you so much for being available. And thank you all for your great questions. And make sure that you reach out to her. She is a wonderful resource and always available. So next on our list is Dawn Jeffrey. Dawn, I don't know if you have any licensing updates that you want to share.
No, not at this time. I don't have any updates other than just welcome everybody, and I'm excited to have this new role.
Yeah, for those of you who may not be aware, Dawn is taking over the role vacated by Ashlyn Abney. It's the assistant director over childcare licensing as well as placement residential. So we're really excited to have Dawn as a longtime early childhood provider out in the state. I think she brings a lot of great personal experience and professional experience to it. So welcome, Dawn. And next on the list is Brandy Ishman, who is going to be talking about voucher participant agreement changes.
Good morning, good afternoon. I said good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Before we get into our participant agreement, Patricia's going to do that update for us. I wanted to let you all know that we've placed the new rates that are going to go into effect on 9/15. Those have been placed on our website. We were made aware of a couple of typos there in regard to school-age children, so we will be making that adjustment and getting that reposted. So just please bear with us as we go through and make sure that all of that information is correct. So I'm going to turn it over to Patricia. She's going to give you all some participant agreement updates.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Sorry y'all can't see my face. I don't have a camera, but I want to share some news with you all about the changes that were actually emailed last week. The definitions were updated to reflect one being deleted. The care type for halftime will not be available after October 1. We have full-time and part-time. As Brandy stated, the rates are going to be adjusted to reflect the correct amount. The hours were also revised to reflect 7 hours instead of the 8. So you did get a clarification on that the next day. With the special SN1, SN2, and SN3, that's special needs. I wanted to make sure that I clarify that as well. For our protected health information and also special needs definitions were updated to reflect the information that is also available in our behavior health. Weekend care was also corrected and revised. The general requirements for the rate of what you can charge the parents, the maximum of over 15% was actually updated. This information was also revised to not include essential. So you will only be able to not go over the maximum of 15% with the low income and ESS cases. Tea and foster care are exempt from all fees. Again, in the general requirements for number 7, we added in a 50-cent daily increase for our tea and foster care subsidy rate. We added in that 50-cent daily increase for our foster care and our tea clients. Our training corrective action process was also updated. In our billing and financials, we updated that if you do not submit your attendance records, there will be a 30-day hold on your payments being processed. Thank you. For the behavior help, it was updated to reflect the new procedures on what to do. If you have any questions or need additional information, you are to email Theodore Beck, Rachel Machen, or Nicole Tarkenton. In section 5, our corrective action process was outlined to reflect the process in our participant agreement. And that's all I have for you all. If you all have any additional questions, you can contact me via email or by phone.
Thanks, Patricia. We have one more set of speakers, and it's really about regulatory checks. So I'm going to let Nora and Kayla, they're going to spend just a few minutes, and then we're going to go back to Q&A stuff gang. So Nora Fawcett and Kayla Bodie.
Hi, everyone. So we just have a few updates, reminders regarding regulatory checks. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the slides. And if anyone would like these slides, I can send them to you as well. The first thing is we just want to remind all providers that you must initiate an out-of-state regulatory check for those potential employees that have lived in another state within the last 5 years. I've included the verbiage here. And so we just want to put that reminder out there. If you have a potential staff member that you're looking to hire, as soon as you're aware that they've lived out of state within the last 5 years, you will need to initiate that before they become employed, regardless whether the Arkansas criminal request has returned satisfactory. And if you have questions regarding out of state or you need some resources or assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. I will put all of our contact information in the comment box. The second couple of things that we want to just remind is that regulatory checks must be completed in 45 days. So this includes the child maltreatment for Arkansas, the Arkansas criminal, and the FBI. Those must be all completed within 45 days. The third reminder that we want to talk about is transaction numbers. When you complete your applicant in your NICAR system, you will be given a transaction number, and that is when you will schedule your fingerprints. We've had a few providers that thought that the fingerprints would be scheduled for them, and so we just want to make sure that we're making it clear that you will have to schedule your own appointment. And I also have the link here, and we can provide that for anyone who doesn't have it. It's also located on our website. And a couple of delays, I won't read all of them, but just some delays in processing. If you are getting a non-satisfactory processed result almost immediately, it's more than likely due to consent forms. So it could be that the wrong information is on the consent form, it hasn't been uploaded, or the wrong form has been uploaded. So if you have any concerns, please reach out and we will be happy to assist you with that. Make sure that the fingerprints have been completed, your child maltreatment has been completed. These are a couple of things that can cause delays. So I've added a few important phone numbers here. This is our regulatory check unit number, as well as the NICAR subscription account, the help desk, and then the central registry for your Arkansas maltreatment. And I'm going to stop sharing. And so I'm going to add my contact information as well as Nora and Brenda Burr, our program coordinator. I'll put all of our contact information here in the chat box. So if you have any questions If you need any assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are here to help.
And Kayla, I think Nora has done that for you. She's put yours and Brenda's contact info in the chat box. So thank you, Nora, for doing that. And I noticed somebody had put the rate link in. So for those of you looking for the rate link, it has also been put in the chat box. I'm going to go back up to the top, gang, as I think that was the last set of speakers. So, and just start from the top. So I'm just going to go down the list, gang, like I always do. You know, I'm over on this side. I'm not out in the field providing direct care, but the question about, do we need to let our families know? I cannot stress to you enough the need to make sure your families that normally pay for childcare, to make sure they're aware, and this should be a constant conversation, that this is one-time money and it is going quickly, gang. Even though we have this American Rescue Plan funding that is next on the list for approval, it's a lot more money than we've had. I predict that it will not last past probably next year, and it technically could go to 2024. But because of the volume and the number of people who are coming on, I don't think it'll last that long for our state. So, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. We're helping a lot of people right now with childcare. When you get to, we're serving more families on essential than we do in our normal low-income childcare program, gang. So I would let your families know, and I would make sure they always understand what we've done is gone in and re-obligated them to October, because that funding is we're in a spin down for cursive funding. And if you'll remember, we've talked about that this funding would only go through probably October or November anyway, but because we have this other resource coming right behind it, and we've added so many families, we're just trying to free up as much as we can to make additional supplemental payments. We can leave them all in essential worker and not do supplemental payments, but it's one or the other. It can't be all of that with this funding. This is the last relief funding like this. The next wave of relief funding has a lot of federal requirements with the American Rescue Plan Act. So yes, make sure your families know, so that I think we'll have childcare assistance beyond October with the new funding. That is our plan. But I think you should always be reminding them. And I talked to a provider on Friday who said that her families were so appreciative that they knew that this was short-term interim funding. And all they do is ask her, like, let us know when we need to start paying again. So I would make it that conversation. Like, this is not forever. This is a very short-term temporary situation. And we will use it as long as we can, just like we've done since last March and April. But it is going to end eventually. So we are now going into the next relief funding. We did them through October to get us through, so that once we get approval, or if we get approval for the next funding, American Rescue, that we'll be able to key them beyond October. We'll put them back to December or March. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. The next question is there a chance that the new funding will not get approved? I cannot predict politics, and I will not. So we are on the schedule, and we are going to take our plan forward, and we will make the very best case that we can, requesting from our legislators to approve the federal dollars that we've been given. And it is a lot. For those of you that don't remember or haven't been on a call, it is $464 million. 130 million of that is just for essential workers. So it's a lot of money. But I cannot anticipate whether or not, it will get approved or not. I saw a couple of others. It looks like a program that is not currently set up. I encourage every provider to get set up. Whether you decide to take children on essential workers or low income is entirely your choice. But I would not stop, and I certainly would not stop, because we're in a little bit of a holding pattern. You should be ready. There's no harm in being ready. You don't have to take children if you don't want to, but getting all the things in place. For those of you who did it a long time ago, and those of you who have done it more recently, it's a bit of a process, and it's not all in the Division of Child Care. We have to work across with our partners at the Department of Finance Administration to get programs set up to accept payment from the state of Arkansas. And that requires banking and all kinds of routing information. So just know it's not our division, it's multiple partners to help you get set up. And I just would encourage you to get set up, because all you have to do is be ready. Whether or not you decide to act on it is entirely your organization and your, either your group that maybe runs your program. It could be a board of directors, or it could be a superintendent, or it could be others that are involved in that. Maybe you make that decision, but you're not required to take them. But if you have everything in place, you can. And for every month that you're not signed up, you're missing an opportunity to potentially receive funding. So just encourage you to do that. If we can help in any way, we will. But I do want to remind everyone, and I will say it on this call and continue to say this, it is one-time money and it will not last forever. So if you do take it, please be aware of that. We're excited to be able to help, but I don't want people to get attached to it in such a way that when it's gone, that it ruins your business. And it could, if you don't have some paying parents or some balance or some way to be prepared for that whenever the time comes that the funding is no longer available. Let's see, I've got one. Thank you, Ms. Franks. Brandy, it looks like we have some programs that are not maybe working on getting those full-time school or summer program children keyed back to part-time. So if you'll reach out to Brandy, I think she's put her information in the chat box, Ms. Franks, and we will make sure we get it to the right staff and coordinate. I've heard from one or two other providers, and please know it's the volume. We do have some temporary staff who are helping us now that just came in a few weeks ago, and that will help with the essential workers as we continue to move forward with that. But please reach out to Brandy and she'll work with her team to make sure that we get those adjusted. Any of that will also help free up for essential workers, especially. It'll free up that budget because it looks like it's all obligated when in fact it could just be that we haven't adjusted for a school age child. So we just paid a quarterly payment 2 weeks ago, I believe, and that would have been the third payment. If we have funding, and remember all of this funding on the website and on all the communication, it is if there's funding available. So if we use money for essential workers and there isn't any left in the bucket, then we won't be able to make a final payment. But we do plan to make one final maintenance payment, and that will be the very last maintenance payment. That will be it if we're able to make it. So we are working on that. That's one of the reasons that we're de-obligating and re-obligating to October. So that is our plan, and that would be the final payment. And I believe that one's scheduled for November, and that will really probably deplete all of these CURSA funds completely. So if you are new to the call, essential worker vouchers, we are currently pending those on a wait list. Those applications are coming in still, but we can't add any new. We are at the maximum capacity on the CURSA funding that we're currently spending down. And so now we'll be requesting approval, which we've talked about this for several months, going to the legislature and getting approval for the American Rescue. We are finally at our placeholder with the legislature, which is this month. And we will be requesting approval for that fund. And that, remember, is $130 million for essential workers. So we will reauthorize the families that are currently on for extended periods and start adding new families. So, but be aware, in my projection, I don't see this lasting through 2024 for essential workers. And my prediction is maybe 1 year. Laura Webb, who's our finance person, and I have been talking this morning, just based on projections. We had about 7 million billed this past month. So it will not last quite as long. And the more people we add, the more money gets utilized. So it just gets smaller and smaller, gang. And there isn't more after that. So it's 130 million. So we're going to have to manage that very carefully. One of the things that we'll be doing that you all will start to see is we will really be doing shorter, probably authorization periods will only go out for 6 months. And then we'll let you know, hey, we're only going to be able to do 3 more months. We won't do 6 months again if we can't do 6 months. So just be aware of that on essential workers. there's a question, Brandy, you may have gotten from Miss Barbara. If maybe you can work with Miss Barbara. It looks like she has one that their days might be a little bit off, and we'll help you, Barbara, see if we can help with that one. Brandy's email is in there, so please feel free to reach out to her, but we will definitely take a look at that with your facility if you'll work with Brandy and her team. And Kristen, thank you for the reminder about the school age and getting all those transitioned. I know this is that time of year when we're trying to do those, and I've heard from other providers, so we'll continue to work down that. I think somebody mentioned that the SN 1, 2, and 3, those are special needs rates, really trying to address children with disabilities and making sure that we have a rate available for those. And then a great question about Better Beginnings, and I sent that to, I believe that was just to me, Cassidy. So I've sent that to Dawn, and we'll work with you offline. Brandy, did you see the question about rates for Madison? Madison is, Benton and Washington is a separate, and that's because of the way the review for market rate was reviewed. Those had outlier rates, but Madison was not in those. So I believe your rates they've been adjusted. So if you're not familiar, please go out there and look and see. All of the rates have been raised in the state, regardless of what county you're in. And that is, there's a link on the website or in the chat box for you to look. And yes, Natalie, I think on the out of state, we're aware those are, and I don't know if Kayla and them probably addressed this, but out of state, really you're just required to submit those. We understand that those may take longer than even the 45 days. We just have to document that there's effort for the federal government, because this is a federal requirement by the Child Care Block Grant to make sure that individuals have regulatory checks. So we just have to document that it's been submitted to that state, but we're very well aware that it does take, and for some states can take quite some time, but we do have to continue to document that we've submitted and are awaiting those results. And Kayla, I don't know if you saw this one, but someone is having difficulty with an out of state that requires a fingerprint card, and we may need to assist them with that process. So if you can reach out to Kayla, whose email information is in the chat box, we can help you with that. And I'm just running through. There's a great question about a standard for paying or not paying staff if they are out due to positive COVID test. What about paying staff if they are awaiting test results? You know, that's certainly your business decision. If we're paying you with funding through our division through CURSA, it can be used to pay for those types of things. But that's certainly a business decision. We would certainly encourage that. As I'm talking to more and more providers who are losing staff and having a difficult time, it seems like that might be a way to retain staff if you're able to do it. But certainly the funding through our Child Care Block Grant for supplemental maintenance, all of those reimbursables can be used just for that. Also would encourage you, and thank you. I'm going back up. Tiffany, thank you so much for pointing this out. We've talked about essential workers, but we have funding in our low income or our normal Child Care Development Block Grant. We do have funding there. There's no waiting list. So any families that would qualify for regular low income, please, please, please route them to low income. They do not have to be waiting. So any of you who have families out there that are eligible for traditional low-income childcare assistance, if they are income eligible and are working or in school, we do not have a wait list there. There's no reason for those families to have to wait. We certainly encourage everyone to try to route them in that direction, but we also know that that sometimes is hard, and the essential doesn't require the income, but that program does. We have to gather income, but I have talked to some providers personally, and they're working with the families. And if we can determine that they're eligible for that, we can go ahead and move them over. So. And I appreciate, yes, Tom and team are looking at ways to make the regular low income more efficient or a little faster in terms of processing. So they're standby. Tom is out on much needed vacation. I can assure you all he needed it. So, but he will be back next week, and we are working on that. So that's a great, I appreciate that. We do want to try to see if we can shortcut some time there. There's a question about the new pay scale. Maybe you're talking about the rate. The rates, I'm just going to go off in here. And then next month, we're going to have Lorraine McKelvey talk about rates along with Tom. But I'm just going to put out there that we're required as a state to do a market rate study. And we did a market rate study in 2019. So yes, it is 2 years old now. But the time in which it takes to do a new market rate today, and today's market would be completely different, and it probably wouldn't be fair, but we will be doing a new market rate. But our rates are based on the 2019 market rate study. And so it looks at all the rates, and we are only required with the federal block grant to pay at the 75th percentile. So just understand that that's a whole other thing. So if you're charging more than the 75th, when we pull all that and we're looking at the 75th percentile, then that's only 75% of the providers. There's 25% that are above that, and that's outside of what we do. So, but I'll let Tom, and we'll invite Dr. Lorraine McKelvey from UMS, who does that market rate study for us, kind of talk about what that looks like and how we conduct it. I think that would be helpful. But that rate study is based on the rates in the state. And was done in 2019. And so we're moving forward just to get the rates. We will adjust rates again in the future, but we have to in the state before this state plan is done. Supplemental payments, please stand by as we are freeing up because we're de-obligating those vouchers that are out through December. And if we have enough, we expect to do a supplemental payment for August and then part of September, and that will complete it. And that's only if funding is available. We can only do it through CURSA funding, and that will be the end of supplemental payments. We will no longer do supplemental. The new rates will go into effect, and we can't even do supplemental with the American Rescue Plan Act funding. It's not an option, but we will try to do 2 more payments, one that will be a full month and one that will be a partial. You will not get supplemental till November because we will pay in September for August, sometime this month, probably in the next couple of weeks, if we have the resources to do it. And then if there are resources available for the first 2 weeks of September, we will do that in October, but there will be no supplemental payments. And supplemental are those payments, that's the additional voucher rate. But those will end. And that was always the plan, to end those this year with the CURSA funding. There is still funding for deep cleaning. So if you have had to close your center or had positive cases, that is deep cleaning at dhs.arkansas.gov. And Brandy, if you'll pop that in the chat box so that everyone has that. I am not sure, Romy, your question about new preschool setup that you've been open for 4 months. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but I'm going to put my phone number in the chat box, and you're welcome to call me to discuss. Just bear with me, gang. I want to make sure I get that in there. Okay, please feel free to call me, Romy, and we can talk about that. Then I'm just going to try to run. I think we're getting close to the end here. Okay, Heather, thank you. I think that's just some transitions we need to work with her, Brandy. Heather, if you'll reach out to Brandy, we'll get those children out of the system in your program and to wherever they belong now. And then Jennifer Easley, thank you. Absentee billing request for quarantine children. I know Brandy and them are working on those. So if Patricia, you or Brandy can make any comment on that. remember, and we are seeing more quarantines with this Delta variant, so we know that that's a possibility, but we hope that you'll send that request in. We can continue to do that and approve those. But if you or Brandy know the time frame, if you can just put that in there. Yes, Barbara, no one is being added to essential. There'll probably be about a 2 to 4 week period between approval by the legislature if they approve the American Rescue. So we stopped adding about a little over a week ago. And I would say, yes, Jenny, I think a lot has changed since 2019, and probably a lot will change in the next 2 years. And we are working on a new market. I actually have a call with our person who does that, and we'll start working on a new market rate. For now, it's such an unusual time that even the federal government is not sure that it would be the very best time to do that. Yes, the new rates, as I understand it, Brandy, are to go into effect September 15th. Yeah, okay. Exact ending date for payments, it hinges completely on what funding is available with CRSA. So what I can tell you now is we have obligated everything out because we have almost 13,000 families in the system. And when you obligate, even though you guys can't bill until after today for a child, it still shows a future obligation through December 31st, depending on where their obligation is. And that ties the money up so that we cannot authorize any other payments. The system won't allow us to do that. So unless we go in and de-ob them and re-obligate them through October and try to free up the resource, that's how we'll know. We are working on that, and our plan is to have the supplemental and supplemental payment for August, and then partial September, and then the maintenance payment in November. Those would be the last of all of those payments. So just stand by as we work through that process. And remember, this funding is one-time money, and once it is utilized and expended, or it is done, we don't have any other resources to go back. We can't do that. So. Amanda, that's a great question about expansion. Stay tuned for that. I'd like to wait until we have official legislative approval for ARPA because it's in that funding. And I think once we have it, it will be less confusing. So that we'll cover that on October 5th on that call. Again, anticipating that we'll have approval. I think on your essential worker applications, because as we hopefully open that back up in the next few weeks, when we do have official approval, if we get approval, if your parent hasn't heard something, there is a little bit of delay with those or there has been. Now that we have a team that's going to be assigned to those, I think the processing will be a little bit quicker. But I would encourage you to reach out, within 2 weeks if they have not heard something. And when I say reach out, make sure that's Brandy or Tom Shepherd so that they can research it and get the information and get it to that family, so that we don't have something that gets lost. Yes, Courtney, that's a great question. The rates will be the new rates for all, both essential and for low income. And so just be aware that when those rates go up, that also diminishes the number of essential worker families. Because the rates will eat up that funding pretty quickly too. So, but it will be with the new rates. I cannot, for ABC programs, the rates for CCDF vouchers are for all programs that take CCDF money. But if it's ABC funding specific, that is a question for the Department of Ed. But for our funds, the CCDF rates will all be adjusted. Yes, if you had an authorization that was obligated through December, because typically we do a 6-month, and that's what happened. The staff did a 6-month from July through December. It is now obligated through October 31st. If we get approval for the new funding, we will reauthorize those families and extend them out. If we do not get approval, then your families will have to pay, just like they would have paid prior to this funding. If they're low income families, they can reapply or apply for a low income voucher, but they would pay. Randy, can you comment on the boundaries about rural or urban?
I will get that list, and it is on our website, what counties are listed as rural and urban. So if you would visit our website, it'll show you exactly which county is which.
Thanks, Brandy. It's on the rate. If you look at that rate information and go to that link, and if you have difficulty, reach out, but it does show which counties are classified as what. And it's based on some specific geocoding that our team did several years ago. The rates, Brandy, will not be keyed. I mean, the new rates won't be in the system until the 15th. So anything keyed prior to that will be with the current rates, and anything after that will be with the new rates. Is that right?
Our IT department is currently working. I believe that all new rates are going to be effective, and it's going to update to the current authorizations that are already keyed. So you should see your new rate reflected come September 15th. And I've also put the link in the chat to where you can find the breakdown of what county is rural, what county is urban.
So there's nothing in the CCDF law or any state requirement, Amy, about raising the private pay rate. That is certainly a business decision for your organization, but there isn't anything in the CCDF requirements or federal child care requirements. And Brandy has put the information about the link again, so thank you. And I think that is it, gang, and we're just right over the 102 mark. So I know that was a lot today, and I really appreciate, just like Jeff said at the beginning, we know that you all are essential, and we appreciate. We are trying to get as much funding to you as we can and make it all work. And I know that it gets very challenging for all of us, but just know that this essential worker thing is to try to help make the payments for supplemental and maintenance, and also prepare for if and when the American Rescue Plan Act funding is approved, because it is, you know, so much bigger than the previous two funding. So we really do appreciate it. Everybody stay safe. Please wear masks, please vaccinate, please keep each other safe. We have lost some early care and education providers in the last few weeks, and it is very disheartening and very saddening for all of us and heartbreaking. So I just want you all to be safe out there, and want you to keep yourselves and your children and your family safe, as well as the ones that you serve. So just take care. If you have questions, reach out to us and let us know. And we appreciate everything that you're doing every day. It is not unnoticed by us. So thanks again, and we'll see you in October.
Bye.